thank Philip for hosting all of you. Just our State Department, thank you for
Cassie is in front of us as well.
helping us make this connection. And you'll learn more while you're here. But Philip, we gave him a Titan Innovation Grant to launch a center in augmented reality, AI, machine learning, all around global community health, especially in urban settings. We're an urban university, one of the top 50 in the entire U.S.
So I'd like to introduce Dr. Radwan. He's the Dean of the College of Health Professionals.
Well, again, good morning and welcome to University of Detroit Mercy. I thank Dr. Olive for his effort, and I thank you all for being here with us. I just wanted to say we're very innovative, we're into technology and AI, and you are always welcome to the College of Health Professions and University of Detroit Mercy. Thank you for your time and your visit, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.
Okay, so today what we're doing is we're looking at how do we enhance human intelligence to enable equity. And anyone heard of climate change, global warming, sustainability? So really what we're looking at today is, how does AI impact this? Does it impact it in a good way or in a bad way? So what I first want to do is frame the problem, because the main issue is everywhere you go, you're always going to look at this from a different point of view. But I'm going to frame the problem in its most simplest form. The world's problem today stems from inequality, energy mismanagement. It's not like we don't have enough energy, it's the mismanagement, and the lack of collective will to address environmental sustainability. That is the fundamental problem that we are all having as a group. And I'm going to break this down scientifically to explain that this is what we need to address. So I want to frame this using a concept of a hyperobject. And this is a philosophical concept coined by a US philosopher, Timothy Moulton. And the idea of an hyperobject, has anyone heard of this concept before? Right? No, because it's philosophy. Why do we need philosophy? We're scientists. Right? But the idea of a hyperobject is this is something that is so big, so complex that as human beings, we just can never get our heads around what it is because it's just so big. So some examples would be things like the internet. The internet's a hyperobject. We understand how it kind of works, but when you look at all the components to how the internet's put together, it's too complicated. Climate change, right? The ozone layer. Remember, some of you are old enough to remember when there was a hole in the sky, and we were all going to burn to death if they didn't plug that hole. And there was a global will. There was monitoring, there was new technology, and we closed that hole, right? So, but the concept of that hole in the sky, the ozone, it's a hyperobject, and it's so big and it's so massive, and it involves so much things, there's so many chemicals and so much monitoring. So that is the concept of a hyperobject. So what I did is, I've been working with AI over the past couple of weeks to kind of say, okay, independently review what we are going through as humans and tell me what we should really do, right? So that's really, so a lot of what I'm informing, these are not necessarily my ideas. They're really, they are AI suggestions, but based off human intelligence, based off what humans can do, and based on human philosophies. So that's the hyperobject. So why is the energy crisis a hyperobject? Right, because number one, it's massive. Hyperobjects are massive. This is massive. It's non-local, right? Whatever we do in one place, so when we burn all those fossil fuels here in America, it affects everyone around the world. So it's non-local. It has a temporal durability. What we do today has an impact in 10 years' time. What happened 10 years ago is impacting us now. So that temporal mechanism that messes with your head also applies to the energy crisis. Interobjectivity. Energy is actually connected to food, right? It's connected to geopolitics. It's connected to economics. So it's not one thing, it's all connected. And the last thing is viscosity. So it interacts with other society systems in such a way, it's very hard to extract it. You can't just pull it out and do something different, right? The energy is intertwined with everything we do. Our economical systems, our geographical systems, the political wealth, it's all tied to energy. So even if you had a solution, you couldn't just snap your fingers and solve it. So moving on to kind of validate why this is valid. So this is a picture of a Nobel Prize winner, Richard Smalley. And this guy is legit. He invented nanotechnology, buckyballs, all these amazing things that we have today. So I believe him when this man says, you are having an energy crisis. That's all you're having, right? And what he's also saying is, if you solve the energy problem, right, the next big issue, so these are priorities: energy, water, food, environment, poverty, terrorism, disease, education, democracy, and population, right? These are in order of priority. And what he's saying is, if you solve this one first, water is the next big thing. Guess what? This planet is 3/4 water. So you shouldn't really be having a water issue, but you are, because you can't drink the water. And to drink the water, you need to convert it. Desalination, that is high energy resource, right? To convert into. So again, but then if you solve the energy problem, you solve the water problem. You solve the water problem, you can grow whatever you want to grow, right? So you solve the food problem, right? You solve the food problem, then agriculture is the number 2 contributor to greenhouse gases. People don't really talk about that because we've got to eat and we like our food, right? So we don't really bring that up so much. But again, you solve the energy, you solve the food, you solve the environment, and then saying it goes all the way down to poverty, right? Then you go to then again, if we have people working and eating, we have less diseases. We have energy so people can study. We have equality with technology. Then people are pulled out of wealth. And if you do all these things, the idea is that you would have less war and terrorism, because guess what? If people are happy, don't get me wrong, human beings will always find something to argue about, right? But would you invade someone else's country, or would you annex something because it's got energy? No, right? We'll argue about the football. When I say football, I mean real football. I'm not talking about more throwing the ball in Americans. But basically, what this dude is saying, and again, he's very, very, very logical. He's passed away. What he's saying is the only thing that you need to really think about solving first is the energy crisis. Because when you look at hyperobjects, if you try and solve all the problems at once, then it gets overwhelming. So that is the philosophy of what we're going to talk about today. So let's look at this issue. So right now, our global energy needs. So we are currently using 26 terawatts annually. That's what we are currently generating. Right? It's a lot. It is a lot, no doubt. Right? But look at what we're doing to the planet to generate that 26 terawatts that we need. And then the other issue with this 26 terawatts is that it's not equally distributed. So I've always been fortunate to live in places where I have good access to energy. So this is gigajoules per person. So on average, we use over 200 here. Europe is a little bit more efficient. We have bigger cities, and you have Sweden, which is just almost zero net neutral with energy. So it's a little bit more efficient. South America, Africa, in some places in Africa, if you look at Nigeria, they live on the equivalent of my fridge. That's how much energy you are using as an individual. What can you do with that? You can't grind your plants, you can't make products, you can barely educate yourself. So the main issue here is that energy is not distributed equally. We don't use it equally. And for us to live in peace and get rid of all the issues we have, it has to be equal. So everyone must have access to the same technology, just like WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a leveler because everyone can have that same communication wherever they live, right? So the same thing, we have to make a way, we have to think about that energy needs to be equally distributed. So to do that, you would need 60 terawatts of energy. If you want the 10 billion people that live on this planet to have equal access, you need 60, right? So if we are at 22 and we're killing 26 and we're killing the planet, how do you get to 60? And where do you get it from? So that is a fundamental challenge that you are trying to address, because you are the future leaders, right? It's not me, unfortunately. It's you guys. So this is what you're trying to think about, right? So let's dive deeper. I don't think our brains can do this. So we're going to ask AI what we should really be doing, okay? So 60 terawatts, how do you generate that? Cleanly and cheaply. That's the two key words. So do we have enough sun to actually give us that? Now, we have about 160,000 that comes into the earth, but some of that is blocked by the atmosphere and it's just not capturable. So realistically, you only have 80,000 terawatts that's capturable. Now, if we were to capture 1%, that gives us 800 terawatts, right? We only need 60. The same with wind. So wind, offshore, onshore, you can generate about 400 terawatt. Don't even talk about geothermal. Right? We haven't even touched that stuff. It's underground. You put a plug underneath it, and it brings heat. Right? You can't even begin to quantify how much you can get because we haven't even looked at doing that at a reasonable scale. So, but the point is, right here between these two things, right, we have more than enough energy. So we don't have an energy problem at all, in a way, because it's all there. So moving on, if we were to solve that, and I know this list is long, but it's been categorized by A in order of priority. So human beings of late are innovating at such a fast rate, and I know it's happening in all your countries as well, right? 20 years ago, when we shot a rocket up put a satellite in, we blew up the rocket. Nowadays, we don't blow rockets up anymore, right? We reuse the rockets. We even caught a rocket the other day. Someone that literally went up, did everything, and the guy that literally caught it, put it out. That is an insane amount of innovation that happened in a very short period of time. It's happening all over the world. There's Elon Musk everywhere doing the same kind of thing to make money, right? If you're solving the right problem. Now, we asked AI, what are the problems that we need to solve to get to that 60 terawatts of energy that we need, right? And you know what it told us? This is the priority of things you need to solve. Number one is advanced energy storage. And it's true, we can generate energy, but the idea of how you move that energy around is kind of flawed. Like in the US, right, we had this massive mobilization towards electric vehicles. And the growth, the subsidies, everything was there. But the big challenge was you could never charge your car. So you're driving, you get to a station, there's another car where you can plug in. You've got to sit there for hours. So everyone have like an EV, so you've got to sit there for hours to wait for it to charge. And it just wasn't, the storage of energy is the big problem. It's not that the cars don't work. It's not that they're not fast. They are fast. They are cheap, right? But the problem is energy. So I really agree with that one. I went through it and I thought, would I agree? But I pretty much would agree. So what it's saying is that we need to innovate every one of these things, and we need to tweak it, and we need to make it more efficient. So you're looking at advanced storage, high efficiency solar panels, that is not a problem, to be honest, because when you look at what is coming out of China and what is coming out of these places, they are high capacity. So we are definitely seeing that. Grid integration tools, that's a massive issue because the grids all over the world are not really that efficient. There's no way you could triple your grid capacity. There's no way. So that's a big issue, right? Carbon capture technologies. Now, I was very surprised that would be so high up there because I just think like you're trying to capture carbon, but you're not stopping what you're doing. I just thought it just seemed like a wasteful, futile exercise. But no, we have to do that. Like listen to the AI. It's something that we also have to do because guess what? If we can capture and we don't generate as much, then we're clearing the environment. So that's we're stopping that continuous rise for the next 10 years. Right? So it makes sense. But a human being, would I have done it this way? No, right? So hydrogen advancements, and this is a big one. When you look at what's going on in places like Sweden, I'll show you a quick case study from Namibia. Hydrogen is very abundant. So again, this is something, there's a lot of innovations already happening in this space. So I see why that's top 10. And enhanced geothermal systems, I was very proud to see that one. Right? Because honestly, I've seen geothermal systems in rural areas, And I look at them and I think, why just here? It just doesn't make sense to me that we're not using it more. So I was very happy to see this in the AI's top 10. Low cost desalination. Wow, that's a no-brainer if you live somewhere where there's no water. And then sustainable aviation, that's an interesting one. Right? But we all like to travel, and that does have a big impact, so makes sense. Circular manufacturing, so this is a good one. So circular manufacturing is like once something is reached its end of life, you take it and it becomes something else. So that we're, again, because we're going to be using a lot of this stuff, right? So you just got to make sure. So I would never have thought of that one, but that makes a lot more sense. And then you get into these are the enablers. So AI-driven predictive maintenance. So being able to, looking after all this equipment is very time-consuming, and it requires a lot of people, but if you have AI doing it, then it makes it easier. And then funding innovations is a big one. The way we fund these programs has to be different from the way they're funded now. And then next generation of renewable materials. So these are all the things that you all need to innovate on. Now, AI is a catalyst for all this. And does anyone use AI at any level? You're very comfortable with what it is and how it works, right? So if you're like me, you know that AI makes you a lot smarter. A lot smarter. My colleagues think I'm a genius. But really, it's like it helps to everything. But no, it really does enable you to do whatever it is you're trying to do. If you don't know what you're trying to do, then AI cannot help you. Right? You have to have a problem that you're solving, and then you can use the tools to help you solve those problems quicker. So that's really the key thing. And then the other big deal about AI is you can feed it economic data, social data, technical data. So you can really solve these big issues using it. You can also make the point that AI needs to think about the three things, not just optimizing the energy or optimizing the technology, it's optimizing the equity, the quality between people. And that is why the whole thing makes a little bit more sense, because you're not just thinking of one thing, you're thinking of how do you bring all these three things together when you're trying to solve your problems. And then the big issue we have, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but I don't know if you know, but AI uses a lot of energy. A lot, 10 times more than what we use now in our computing power. Yeah. So as we rely on this stuff, if we don't do it right, we're going to be digging ourselves into a bigger hole. So, but I think AI is still part of the solution, but AI is also the problem. So just bear that in mind. Don't want to go too deep into that, but it's something that is really important. So these are all the ways that that AI can help us improve on what we're doing. And the key thing is infrastructure. You need to build better infrastructure. You need to innovate on the infrastructure. Efficiency. We need to fine-tune all these things that we currently have generating energy to make them more efficient. And I'm not asking humans to stare at the data. Give the data to an assistant. Give the monitoring to an AI assistant that can look at this stuff. But the big one to me, investment mechanisms. Right now, there was a coupler at Azerbaijan, and I was kind of following it and laughing, a lot of laughing more than anything, because there were more fossil fuel deals done than anything else. But there was something that was really interesting that was being discussed there, that came up heavily within the AI, and that is developing a funding mechanism to de-risk investments in renewable energy in developing countries. Because investing in a developing country is very risky, but the rewards are really high, because if they're generating energy that everyone needs, right, somebody's always buying that energy, so you've always got a product where you're making 10% plus. So any investor will take that deal. What is stopping you is the risk. So if what these leaders were saying is, don't give us money. We don't want your climate change mitigation fund. Keep your money. Put money into a global fund, similar to your IMF and your World Bank rubbish that doesn't really work that well. Put it into a global fund that will match the private investment coming into our countries, so we can build these mega projects. And we'll give you 10% return. If everything goes belly up, you've guaranteed that investment. And what did Copper say? No. We're just going to give you the handout fund. We're going to pledge a handout fund that we're going to do, and that's good. But AI came up very heavily with that. And it also came up with, do you know how that fund should be actually managed? Crypto. Cryptocurrency, crypto investment. And I thought that might not make sense, but there's a lot of sense in that because there's a lot of financial money flying around on these crypto markets, right? You know that. Some of it's legal, some of it's illegal, some of it's Russian money moving around, some of it's people that have just made a lot of money on crypto over the years. There's a recent, anyone see the picture of the banana on the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much did it sell for?
$6 million. 6 million plus. 6 million plus, right?
Okay, so was this a genetically modified banana that can stand up to the fungus that's going to wipe it out? No. All right. Is this a banana that tastes better than any banana in the world? No. It's just a regular banana from a grocery store. And someone pays $6 million. What did they do with it?
Perception.
He hates it. It's $6 million banana. So as I said, there's a lot of crypto money out there where if you say you're gonna put that crypto money into a project where it's going to generate actual real returns that you can put on your tax return, that fund will be full. So that's what AI is saying. I mean, legally, is it okay? I think it is. I don't know. If I can buy a banana and eat it for $6 million, why can't I invest in a global fund that is generating energy? So that one was really interesting. The investment mechanism is something that's really slowing us down. And then scalability into remote regions. So what this is saying is that you need to have the capability to generate energy, make it work, and then scale it up somewhere else. So that you're not necessarily reliant on transferring energy all over the world. You need to make it scalable so that everyone can get access to what is needed. And then the big one, these are not in order by the way, but the big one is integration. And I really worry about that because in Canada recently, we did, about 10 years ago, we had a program where I could invest in renewable energy, put solar panels and do all this stuff. And then the government will pay me X amount per month for that energy. And we all did it and went into it, but they realized that the amount of people that took that up, there's no way they could get onto our grid. So they had to spend billions upgrading the infrastructure to be able to take in what people were putting into the grid from their houses. So the integration is something that we definitely have to think about, how we do that. But the key thing that we're really looking at is the intersection. There's a sweet spot where AI allows us to intersect equity and energy. So you're really thinking about how do we deploy these two things in a meaningful way so that number one, there is equity, there is energy, and I'm making money. The whole thing, the reason why it doesn't work right now is money, right? So any clean energy project has to make money for someone. And energy, you're putting energy out there and selling it. Why are you not making money? How can you not make money doing this, right? So we have to really think through, the access, AI to optimize almost everything we do. We have to only look at clean energy sources. If it's what you see as a dirty energy source, then there needs to be a subsequent tax to level the playing field. So that's really the mantra we're looking at. I can talk about a few projects that really make sense. So Namibia is one of these places where I think they're partnering with Germany. So Germany is doing a lot of the financial investment. And they've just built a massive solar. So these are mega projects. So you're looking at $1 billion plus to implement these things. So these are just one scale that is just mind-blowing how big these things are. The idea behind these they have a solar mega project, a wind mega project, and now they're doing a hydrogen mega project. So they're currently building up these energy generation, but they haven't really thought through the infrastructure, the storage. So there's going to be so much innovation. Once they get to that point where they realize, okay, so we can generate all this and we can sell it, but how do we transport it? How do we capture it? How do we store it? So there's going to be like a follow-on boost of innovation that is going to go into that economy, into the local environment, where people are going to have to start being the inventors and the entrepreneurs to basically use and sell and transport this energy. Some of it will be local, but a lot of this is being built to be shipped out to Germany and countries like that. So we've seen a lot of these mega projects. There's one in Chile, with Chile and Japan as well, but they're all bilateral. Right? These are not global funded initiatives. They're two countries coming together and saying, you're going to make my energy and I'm going to guarantee buy it because I'm going to put the investment in there so that when it's ready, I can access that energy. Very similar to what they do with the mining, but this is way better because the potential impact and demonstration of how this works is a big deal. The next one is it's on a smaller scale, but these are microgrids, right? And again, I've always been blown away as to how few microgrids we have in the world. There's only about, this is 2019, but only about less than 5,000 microgrids. So microgrids, you guys are climate experts, you probably know this. These are grids where they're kind of off the grid, but they generate local electricity that is used locally, right? Most of them are typically solar based, and they don't have to be, it could be anything. But but again, they require a lot of expertise to run, a lot of investments to get them started. Technologies, I would say, pretty mature right now, because there's lots of companies that will come turnkey and, load, container their equipment, put it up, open it out, boom, you've got the power. How do you get that to the houses? How do you get that to the industry? That's a separate issue. But basically, using AI as a way to run and optimize these microgrids so that the communities around them can have the energy and power that they need. Once again, if I invest in a microgrid, well, let's say I'm a crypto millionaire, I buy a couple of these, I'll throw it in a town. A village might be too small, I'll throw it in a town somewhere. I want my return, so you can use my energy, but everyone has to pay for that energy that they're using to kind of sustain it and to make sure that I'm getting my 10% out of it. So microgrid optimization is something that we're seeing a lot of. The next project is using AI for aeroponics farming. So vertical farming is, everyone's heard of vertical farming, where you basically grow the product upward, right? You use water, nutrients, and LED lights. Right? Now, back in the day, this used to be really expensive, right? There were some demonstration projects, but the technology was just really clunky, very hard to maintain. Nowadays, we actually have, this is our lab here, and these ladies are the ones that manage this lab. Do they have a lot of agricultural experience? Do you? Not really. Vidya's ophthalmologist, right, from India. These are health service administration and undergraduate students. So you don't need a lot of experience to run this stuff. So the idea behind the project is, where we are in Detroit is considered a food desert. There's certain places where there are really not many groceries and you really can't get access to a lot of healthy food. So we have a lot of problems when it comes to nutrition and diseases that are affected by diet. So one of the programs that we're implementing is, can you enable people to grow their own food locally and then sell that food into the community so that your community has food that you can buy and you're not importing it. The second thing this solves as well is agriculture is the #2 contributor to climate change. So, and a lot of that is the transportation. So in Detroit, local means 300 miles away. So that is going quite far, really, if you think about what we call local food. So what happens if you can build an ecosystem of entrepreneurs that are growing food and delivering it to the restaurants and to the community centers and to the supermarket locally and making money? Because again, poverty is something that we also see here. So this is an idea where we've done 3 harvests, and the equipment that we have costs less than this phone here. Right, this phone is not really going to make me money unless I'm an influencer like you guys, right? But that will make me money because I need water and I need nutrients, and I can go growth cycle after growth cycle. So this is a project that we're doing And I think the thing why this is important is a lot of people are kind of struggling with, we know there's a problem, but you're not involved with solving that problem. And that causes a lot of depression amongst young people. I think we're a bit more resilient because we've seen it. But a lot of our younger people are really struggling with the fact that, you know, they feel, I would say useless, but they feel hopeless, right? Because there's not much you can do, and they don't feel like they can contribute. But when you start involving them in these kind of programs, research has shown that their mood improves and their optimism improves. So, yes, I like the great mega projects and billions of dollars, but these small little projects also have an impact on the bottom line and also on the health of your community. So I just wanted to talk about our project, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we do. So, in summary, so let's kind of summarize now. You can use AI to adequately resource map what energy solutions we need. We can use it to optimize these solutions. It's really important to understand what energy we need at that time in that area. So there's a lot of AI optimization that can come into play. It's important that when we think about this, you've got to think about affordability to the different communities. Right? You will never get global peace, right, unless you solve the global energy crisis. Right? So that's what we're solving, the energy crisis. Climate change is important, sustainability is important, poverty is important. If you solve the energy crisis, there is a knock-on effect to solving those other things. And then the last thing I want to talk about is don't use, anyone in America is going to be here, don't use the word renewable energy or clean energy, right? There's a change in government, and what the new government like is cheap energy. It's a branding issue. But right now, if you look at all the states where we have Republican kind of governors, they are heavily going after these renewables, which is completely not what you hear in the news, right? Because you hear the climate deniers. No, they're actually going after energy renewables. But what they've done is they've renamed it and rebranded it to clean energy to supplement the other energy that they're generating. So again, it's not that people are against it. If you can put this and you can present this in an affordable investment mechanism where people are getting returns, and you rebrand it so that, you know, it's not just something you're doing out of the goodness of your heart. You're doing it because, number one, it is cheap and it is clean and it's widely available, right? So you're kind of reframing that conversation. So because people like money, right? So you reframe that conversation, then suddenly you make this more available to more investors and for more people to do research on some of those problems that need to be solved. Okay, so AI is not just a tool. It's a tool that can help you with your assignments. It can help me write papers. It helps me write my book. It helps me create a graphic novel. I create a comic too. Right? So it can help you do whatever you want to do. But it is a bridge between scarcity and abundance. It's the thing that can bridge that gap. Right? Now, I'm not saying that, look, to use AI, again, we have to find good ways to power the AI, right? But the reality, this is something that we can enable to help reduce that equity as we move forward. So I'd say thank you guys for listening.